Here's the thing about Propane that nobody tells you. This band has been around for 35 years. They just put out their 16th album and might be better than anything they've released in the last 2 decades. We're talking 16 albums, and before a week ago, I had never listened to a single full album. That's actually why you should keep watching. I'm not a lifer. I'm not here to tell you it's great because I grew up with it. I went in stone cold, no pun intended. In other words, I went in with no nostalgia, no bias. I was only able to do a deep dive on the first few albums, and then I sat with Stone Cold Anger, start to finish.
Just like this, everybody! 1, 2, 3.
What I found genuinely surprised me, and I think it will surprise you too, whether you follow this band for 30 years or you've never heard the name before today. Here's what I want you to stick around for. I'm going to tell you the one track on the album that sounds like a Lost Suicidal Tendencies classic, and the one track that almost tanks the whole record. Because this album is not bulletproof. But the parts that work, they work hard. Quick version of my history with this band because it matters. I knew the name, I bumped into Propane here and there over the years. It's impossible not to be into metal or hardcore or groove metal and never just hear anything from them. But I never really committed to them. When the album was announced, I figured it was time. So I went back to the beginning, and here's what I found. These guys built something real, something heavy, street level, no nonsense. It's hardcore with genuine attitude and riffs that were made for rooms where people are trying to hurt each other in the best possible way. I liked everything I heard, and I liked everything immediately, which made reviewing this new album more interesting than I expected, because the question stopped being, is this good? It started being, is this the best that they've ever been? I've got an answer, and I think longtime fans are going to have strong feelings about it either way. So let's get into it. Let me start with the facts on the record, and then I'm going to tell you the one thing about this album that almost everyone gets wrong. Stone Cold Anger is the 16th studio album by Propane, released May 15th, 2026 through Napalm Records, marking the band's debut on that label and their first album in 11 years, which is since 2015's Voice of Rebellion. That's a long gap by any measure. The record was produced, recorded, mixed, and mastered by returning guitarist Eric Klinger at EKG and Blackout Studios. It features cover art by Matt Collins and clocks in about 33 minutes. So it's very lean, it's very direct, and there's no filler. Thematically, it covers retribution, government corruption, social injustice, economic pressure, and the simmering rage of a population that's been pushed too far. Classic Propane territory. So let's get into it. I'm going to give you the main criticism on the album, and then I'm going to tell you why I think that criticism is only half right. I'm going to keep this part short because honestly, there's not a lot to complain about here, and I'd rather be honest than just make shit up. The main issue on the album, and it's a legitimate one, is that it's very predictable. Propane sounds like Propane. Every riff, every gang vocal, every political lyric lands exactly where you'd expect it to. If you were hoping for this band to come back after 11 years and do something different or do some type of creative reinvention or bold new direction, you're going to be disappointed. That's a real criticism, and I understand it. But here's the thing, and that's kind of like a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because bands get criticized when they change their sound, and then they get criticized when they don't change their sound. The difference is whether what they're doing still holds up, and in this case, it absolutely does. So yes, it's familiar, yes, it's predictable, but it's not weak. The musicianship is sharp, production is excellent, the energy is genuine. Those are not small things. If you wanted a massive creative leap, look elsewhere. If you want a reliable Propane record that delivers exactly what it promises, keep watching. Here's what the album gets genuinely right, including one thing that I didn't expect from a hardcore band in 2026. The best thing I can say about Stone Cold Anger is that it sounds aggressive, heavy, and energetic while still being completely catchy and groove-driven. That balance between brutality and memorability is genuinely hard to pull off, and Propane have been doing it for over 30 years. Gary Meskil's vocals are the first thing worth calling out. The man sounds exactly the same as he always has. Raspy, angry, intense. There's zero drop-off from what he's been doing in the early 90s, and after decades in the game, that's remarkable. His voice is the backbone of the band's identity, and it remains completely intact. The guitar work throughout this album is excellent. The chunky palm muted riffs, the groove metal chugging, the well-placed solos. Eric Klinger and Greg DeCenza bring real craft to these songs, and the production lets everything breathe without polishing off the raw edge that makes hardcore actually feel like hardcore. And there is one track in the album that compares to a Suicidal Tendencies classic, and I'll get to that in the breakdown. The album also has more range than you might expect. Yes, it's primarily a hardcore record, but there are thrash metal passages, crossover punk moments, groove metal textures, and even a couple of tracks that have a more melodic, almost rock and roll energy to them. Within its lane, it covers a lot of ground. I also read a review calling this potentially their best work since Foul Taste of Freedom, their beloved 1992 debut. While I haven't gone through every album in the catalog, I can say with confidence that this record sounds as strong as anything I've heard from them. Propane's core identity is completely intact, and there's no real loss of force after that long 11-year break. If anything, they came back hungry. Okay, now for the 10 tracks, I'm going to tell you which ones are essential, which ones are filler, and which ones had me hit and repeat. Oceans of Blood is the lead single and the opening track. It's fast, classic hardcore energy right out the gate. Cool palm muted riffs, signature raspy vocals, and some excellent drumming with triplets that gives it a propulsive, relentless feel. Exactly the right way to open a record like this. Stone Cold Anger is the title track and the first single. Big chunky riffs, palm muting, thrash, and hardcore combined. Gang vocals in the chorus, a short but effective guitar solo. This one sounds exactly like Propane, which is precisely the point and precisely why it works. March of the Giants was another single and one of the slower paced tracks. Cool chugging rhythms, a music video with post-apocalyptic futuristic imagery. It doesn't stray far from the formula, but it's a solid mid-tempo entry that adds some variety to the pacing. Uncle Sam Wants You, one of my personal highlights. It got that old school crossover vibe, and this is the one that reminds me of Suicidal Tendencies, Join the Army. It has that same type of energy, heavy chugging, catchy gang vocal chorus, and a guitar solo with wah-wah effects, and actually stands out. So it's a really great and a great fun song. Now we're halfway through the track list, and the back half is where things get a lot more interesting. Track 5 is Demonic Intervention. A thrashy track goes slightly outside Propane's usual political lyrical territory into something that sounds like demonic possession, which was a fun curveball. Guitar harmonics add a real groove, metal texture, gang vocals in the chorus again. It's a solid track. Rinse and Repeat was a more groove metal kind of track, had the vibes, had the chugging guitars, one of the more straightforward entries on the album. Does exactly what it needs to do, nothing more. If anything, it's kind of a mid-track, not something I'd skip, but not something that I would say is the best on the album. Hell or High Water, one of the thrashier entries, big riffs, powerful drums, a lot of aggression. The wah-wah guitar solo makes a return here, works well too. High energy and hard to ignore. Track number 9 is the darkest thing on the record, and I mean that literally, but stick around because that one deserves its own moment. But before I get there, I get to track number 8, Scorched Earth. This was single, has a lyric video on YouTube. The song tackles corporate and government destruction of the earth, and the scorched earth imagery ties directly into the hook. It's catchy, it's melodic in places, it's very representative of what the band has done. The visual presentation did a good job carrying the message. Now comes to Jonestown Punch, the more interesting track in the album. Cool thrash riffs, creative hi-hat driven drumming, some of Meskil's most aggressive vocal work on the record, and bordering on death growls at points. In the subject matter, the Jonestown Massacre is dark and it suits the intensity. The guitar solo is also clean and melodic. There's one track left, and it's the most divisive song on the whole album, and I want to hear what you think about it in the comments. So the last song on the album is called Sky's the Limit. It's a closer, and it's like the brightest track in the album. It's more punk energy. It has a sing-along chorus. More of a fun vibe than I can imagine some diehard fans are kind of looking for. Some people might roll their eyes at it for being too upbeat, but I liked it. It's a nice release of pressure after everything that came before it, and it sends you off with a smile. Here's my final verdict, and my score might be higher than you would expect for an album this predictable. So here's where I land on Stone Cold Anger. It's not a complicated album. It doesn't ask a lot of you. It's not trying to challenge your expectations or take you somewhere you've never been before. What it is doing is delivering 33 minutes of genuine, high-quality, pit-ready hardcore from a band that's been doing exactly this for 35 years, doing it as well as they ever have. For longtime Propane fans, this is exactly what you've been waiting for. After 11 years away, the band came back completely intact with the same energy, the same identity, the same Gary Meskil vocals that sound like gravel soaked in anger. No decline, no awkward pivot, just Propane being Propane. And whether you're a lifelong fan or a newcomer like me, this record has something for you. For people like me who are coming to the catalog fresh or catching up, it's a genuinely enjoyable record. It holds up on repeat listens. The hooks are all there. The riffs are real. The attitude is authentic. And at 33 minutes, it never overstays its welcome. Some albums you need to sit with and unpack. Stone Cold Anger is not one of those albums. It's a good time, and you don't need to overthink it. So my final score is going to be an 8 out of 10. One of the most fun listens of 2026 so far. And that's my take on Propane's Stone Cold Anger. Check out this playlist, 2026 album reviews, all the new reviews of this year. Thanks for watching. Please like this video. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.